Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your snow day. Wanted to pass along some feedback for the Module 1 case exercise and pass along some tips to help in the future. So these were some areas that were pretty common across the submissions. This was just your first one, so my expectation was, really right in line. Um, it was hard to do poorly, but by the same token, it was hard to do particularly well because this is your first time doing it. So a couple of the things to keep in mind for tomorrow's exam. Number one, and sorry, I'm looking down my notes. Be focused. This is not a kitchen sink exercise. Remember, we talked about in the debrief class yesterday that you didn't have much time in order to make this case. You had to focus on the most salient parts. So long paragraphs that were written for this responses, well, that's not a dialogue, that's a speech. So for your exam tomorrow, you want to be focused. It means pick the most important parts of the argument and focus on really nailing those down. Premise, 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 conclusion. That's a really simple way of looking at it. All right. The second one, no need to go outside the case. We talked about this in the debrief. You're not prohibited from going outside the case and bringing in other information and so forth. But the more you do that, the more you have to defend it. The more you're defending that, the less time you're paying attention to the facts and the assumptions that are inside the case. So, like I said, you're not prohibited from going outside the case, but I'm not sure that it's a high value add. Right? Remember the context, really important. In this case, it was an interview. You're having a dialogue, a conversation. Tomorrow's exam will be different. It won't be an interview format, but keep the context in mind. Who you are, what role you're playing, and who you're speaking to. Okay? Assumptions, these are that area for theory and to bring in the module content. Making those connections like we did in the debrief. So bring in the theory when it comes to the assumptions, but remember, no jargon. In several cases in the submissions today, it was things, we're a landlord, we're if we're going to be a broker or something like that, or we're going to be a creator. No. That's jargon. That's course material. That's not what we're after. Right? Use your own language, but communicate those course concepts in your own way. All right. Be careful about making market or industry assumptions. For example, there were several people mentioned, well, this is a very competitive space, or it's a highly competitive industry. You don't know that from the case information, so there's no need to mention it. This is, again, a little bit of going outside the case, but making broad assumptions. You don't know how competitive this space is. This could be a very munificent environment. In fact, a lot of software spaces are. So just be careful in the market and industry assumptions that you're making. Just stick to the facts and the reasonable assumptions that you can draw from those facts. Beware of extreme language. And this is something where a lot of folks struggled with it. And you would say things like, this is a serious impact on our business, or this was the most significant concern that we have. Be cautious about making those kinds of claims. Just like what we talked about in class, the qualified versus unqualified claims. If you're going to say that this is the single most important issue facing our business, well, that's a pretty high standard, and especially if you're the person interviewing for the job, you don't know that. I mean, the CEO knows that. The senior manager that you're interviewing with probably knows that, but you certainly don't. So be very, very cautious about extreme language. It puts your argument into a box that you have to defend and provide evidence to support. And most likely, you don't have that kind of evidence to support that claim. So be very cautious about it. Lastly, also be cognizant of recommending consulting firms or market research, or we're going to pursue a market research plan or something like that. Like I mentioned to the second section, the concern about doing that is, think about it from the other side of the table. If you're interviewing somebody and you're asking for their opinion on a business problem, And their response is, go hire somebody else to tell you the answer. Okay, fine. So why do I need to hire you? Right? It's not that market research or hiring consultants is necessarily bad, although admittedly I am biased against consulting firms. But it's not about what you can go hire. It's about what you bring to the table. So I want you and your insights, and simply saying, well, I'm going to go hire somebody to do my job for me, that's not a value creating strategy for your career. All right? So keep it focused. Don't go outside the case. Remember the context. Assumptions are your opportunity with theory, but avoid the jargon. Don't make big market or industry assumptions that aren't in the case. Beware of extreme language that puts yourself into a box, and don't recommend hiring a consultant. Okay, good luck. You guys will do great, and enjoy the rest of the snow day, and I will see you tomorrow.